I am Lela, and this year I am 68 years old. For 40 years, this kitchen has witnessed every Thanksgiving and Christmas of my family brimming with laughter and the scent of gingerbread. But for the past 4 years, a strange sickness has poisoned our holidays, and I had closed my eyes to it. Until this Christmas Eve, when I saw the sheer terror in the eyes of my young grandchildren, I knew I could not stay silent any longer. Before I tell you about the night I changed everything, I want to know where you are listening from. Are you in your own kitchen, maybe preparing for the holidays too? Please, share with me, and if you want to hear the story of finding peace again, hit that subscribe button. The memory of Christmas in this house used to be a physical thing, a warmth you could feel in your bones. My Frank would haul in the tree, smelling of pine and cold air, and our son David, just a little boy, then would dance around his feet, begging to put the star on top. We would wait until Christmas Eve, Frank lifting him high on his shoulders, David's small, serious face concentrating as he placed that glittering star just so. I would bake for days. The counter would be dusted with flour bowls of sugar cookie dough and rum balls lining every surface. Frank's job was the eggnog, and he guarded his secret recipe like a state treasure. The house wasn't just decorated, it was transformed into a living, twinkling heart. That heart stopped beating 10 years ago when Frank left us. I thought if I just kept the traditions alive, kept the table set the same way, kept baking the same cookies, I could keep the family together. For a while, it seemed to work. David married Chloe 8 years ago, and she was so eager in the beginning. She'd ask for my recipes, write them down in a beautiful leather notebook she'd bought just for that purpose. She called me Mom from the start, and it felt like a gift. The first crack appeared 4 Christmases ago. David was a partner at his law firm by then, carrying a weight on his shoulders I didn't yet understand. He arrived late, his coat smelling of winter and expensive coffee. The tension rolled off him in waves. Dinner was fine, pleasant even. But when it was time to leave a simple discussion about who would drive home, Chloe had a headache turned sharp. His voice was a low, frustrated rumble. "Just get in the car, Chloe." Her reply was tearful, brittle. "You don't have to snap." He did snap then, a short loud, "For God's sake," that made the crystal on the sideboard tremble. The silence afterwards was colder than the night outside. I told myself it was just a bad day, the pressure of work. Every couple has them. But the next year, the bad day had a script. It was about money. Raised voices over the cost of private preschool for Maya, who was then just 4. Words like frivolous and irresponsible were tossed across the dining table like weapons. Chloe fled to the bathroom in tears. David sat scowling at his empty plate. My little Maya climbed into my lap and buried her face in my neck, her body rigid. Last year, year 3, the battlefield expanded. It was my cooking my tree, the chaos of my home. Chloe's critiques were delivered with a surgical smile. "The gravy is just a bit salty for the kids, Mom. Oh, the tree is exuberant this year." David would then criticize her for criticizing, and the spiral would begin. It ended with him slamming his hand on the table so hard the silverware jumped and shouting something I couldn't quite make out, but the fury in it was clear. 5-year-old Noah, who had long stopped sucking his thumb, had it shoved firmly in his mouth, his eyes wide and unblinking. After they left that night, my neighbor and dearest friend Helen came over with a bottle of sherry. She'd heard the car peel away. She poured us 2 glasses, sat in Frank's old armchair, and said quietly, "Lela, they aren't just ruining your dinner. They are ruining those children." I took a sip, the sweet liquor burning, and said nothing, but her words took root in the quiet, fertile soil of my worry and grew in the dark all year long. This year, as November bled into December, the anticipation I usually felt was replaced by a low, humming dread. Decorating the house felt like a chore. I pulled the boxes from the attic, and the scent of old cardboard and memories made my eyes sting. I put on the Christmas carols, but the music seemed tinny and far away. 2 weeks before the holiday, David called. His voice was all business, no warmth. "Mom, listen. We might be later than planned on the 25th. Court's backed up, and I have a conference call that could run long, and we'll probably need to head out early. Noah has a thing. A thing. My grandson had a thing. I just said I see." A few days later, it was Chloe. "Hi, Mom. I wanted to touch base about the menu." Her tone was bright fake, the one she used in meetings. "We're all trying to be more mindful about carbs and gluten. I was thinking we could do a heritage turkey breast, no skin, and maybe a cauliflower mash instead of potatoes and a big kale salad. It would be so much healthier for the kids. She spoke as if our tradition of buttery mashed potatoes, my mother's sweet potato casserole with the pecan crust and the flaky buttery rolls, were acts of sabotage. I felt a flare of anger, hot and surprising. "Chloe," I said, keeping my voice even, "this is Christmas dinner. We'll have the usual." There was a pause. "Of course," she said, the brightness gone. "Just thought I'd suggest it." When I went shopping for the kids' gifts, I found myself not in the toy aisle, but in the art section. I bought Maya a beautiful sketchbook and a set of high-quality colored pencils. For Noah, I chose the softest, plushest teddy bear I could find. Gifts of comfort, not joy. Gifts for children who needed soothing. On Christmas Eve, I decorated the tree alone. Frank's old Perry Como record played softly in the background. When I lifted the old, slightly tarnished star to put it on the top, I couldn't reach. I stood there holding it, and then the tears came. Not gentle tears, but great heaving sobs that came from a place of profound loneliness and failure. I was failing Frank. I was failing to protect his grandchildren. I was failing to be the matriarch who kept the peace. I put the star on the mantel and went to bed, the tree half-lit, twinkling mockingly in the dark living room. Christmas Day dawned brittle and bright. I was in the kitchen by 6, basting the turkey, the familiar rhythms a small comfort. They arrived at 2, right on time, and the chill that entered with them had nothing to do with the weather. David gave me a quick, perfunctory hug. He smelled of stress and expensive cologne. Chloe's kiss landed on the air beside my cheek. "The house smells traditional," she said, her eyes scanning the living room. Maya and Noah came in behind them, quiet as church mice. "Hi, my darlings," I said, bending down. They hugged me, their small arms tight, but they said nothing. Maya's hand found mine and held on. The meal was a minefield from the start. David checked his phone constantly. Chloe commented on everything. Maya, sit up straight. "Noah, use your napkin, not your sleeve." Her voice was a tight wire. The first explosion happened over the green beans. Noah, who has never liked them, pushed them to the side of his plate. "Noah, eat your vegetables," Chloe said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "I don't want to," he mumbled, looking down. "He doesn't have to finish them." "Chloe," David said, not looking up from his phone. "Don't undermine me," she hissed at him. "Don't start a fight over green beans," he shot back, finally looking at her. And then it was as if a dam broke. It wasn't about green beans anymore. It was about a failed investment property David had kept secret. It was about Chloe feeling isolated and judged by his family. It was about money, resentment, unmet expectations, years of stored venom. Their voices climbed, overlapping, crashing into each other. "You never listen. You spend money like it's water. You're just like your mother." That one from Chloe hit David like a slap. He stood up so fast his chair screeched. "Don't you dare talk about my mother," he roared. Maya began to cry openly, big silent tears streaming down her face. Noah was frozen, his little body pressed back into his chair, his eyes huge and fixed on his father. Chloe slammed her palm on the table. "I'm so sick of this family and its perfect holiday facade. It's all a lie." The sound was like a gunshot, and in that moment, I saw it. Not the anger, not the drama. I saw my grandson, 5 years old, with his hands clamped over his ears, his face pale with a terror no child should ever know at Christmas. I saw my granddaughter trying to become invisible in her chair. And something deep inside me, something that had been bending for 68 years, finally snapped. I stood up. My knees did not shake. My voice, when it came, was calm, clear, and cut through the noise like a knife through soft butter. "That is enough." The word hung in the sudden, shocking silence. All of them turned to look at me. David's face was still flushed with rage. Chloe's was streaked with angry tears. I looked directly at my son. "David, Chloe, I want you to leave my house, right now." For a second, there was only confusion. Then David let out a disbelieving laugh. "Mom, what are you talking about? It's freezing out. We haven't even had dessert. You have had enough," I said. My voice still quiet, but now ironclad. "You will leave now. Get your coats." Chloe found her voice shrill and indignant. "You're kicking us out. On Christmas," I turned to her. For 4 years, you have turned my home into a battlefield. For 4 years, you have taught these children that this screaming and slamming is what love looks like. I will not allow it for one more second. Not in my house. Now get out. I walked around the table. I did not look at David or Chloe. I went to Maya and Noah. I knelt down, putting my arms around them. Their small bodies were trembling. Come with Grandma, I whispered. I led them, one in each hand, past their stunned parents, down the hall to the spare bedroom, the one that used to be David's. I sat them on the bed, wrapped a quilt around them. You stay right here. I will be back in just a minute. Your mom and dad need to go outside for a while. I closed the door softly. When I returned to the dining room, David and Chloe were still standing there as if paralyzed. I am not asking again, I said. Something in my face, a look they had never seen before, finally moved them. Wordlessly, furiously, they gathered their things. Coats were yanked on. Chloe wouldn't look at me. David shot me a look of pure betrayal before he wrenched the front door open. The cold night air rushed in. Then the door slammed shut, a final, terrible punctuation mark. The silence that followed was immense. It rang in my ears. I stood alone in the wreckage of the Christmas dinner, surrounded by half-eaten food and overturned glasses. Then I took a deep, shuddering breath and went back to my grandchildren. I stayed with Maya and Noah until they fell asleep, which took a long time. I told them silly stories about their father when he was little. I sang carols in a soft voice. I promised them over and over that they were safe, that they were loved, that none of this was their fault. When their breathing finally grew deep and even, I kissed their foreheads and turned on the nightlight. I walked back into the quiet house. I expected to collapse, to cry, to scream, to fall apart, but I didn't. A strange, steely calm had settled over me. The grief was there, a vast ocean beneath me, but I was floating on top of it, numb and clear-headed. I went to my desk. I took out a pad of my best linen stationery, the one I saved for thank you notes, and my favorite fountain pen. I opened my laptop, and I began to write. Not an email, a letter. I wrote for hours. I started with the truth I needed them to remember. My dearest David and Chloe, first and foremost, I love you. I love Maya and Noah with every fiber of my being. That will never, ever change. Then I wrote the truth they needed to face. I documented it. Year 1, the argument in the foyer, Maya's confusion. Year 2, the fight over money, Chloe in tears, David's scowling silence. Year 3, the critiques, the slammed hand, Noah's thumb in his mouth, the fear in his eyes. And year 4 tonight, the detailed description of the screams, the slammed palm, the frozen terror on my grandchildren's faces. I wrote, you are not just arguing. You are conducting emotional warfare, and your children are the collateral damage. I have been an accomplice by my silence. No more. Then I laid out the unthinkable. My new rules. 1. They were not welcome in my home for any holiday or family gathering until they could demonstrate through consistent couples counseling and likely individual therapy that they had addressed these destructive patterns and learned healthy communication. I included the names and numbers of 2 highly recommended family therapists I had researched months ago after my talk with Helen. 2. My relationship with Maya and Noah would be preserved separately. I would see them for visits in neutral, calm places, the park, the library, a quiet cafe, or here at the house, but only with me and only when their home was calm. 3. If they refused these terms, our relationship would be reduced to occasional brief phone calls and birthday cards. My priority was now the emotional safety of the children and my own peace. I signed it. With all my love and with a heart that is broken but finally clear. Mom. I carefully blotted the ink. I took a picture of each page with my phone. Then I attached the photos to an email. The subject line was, For David and Chloe. I pressed send. I then addressed an envelope, put the physical letter inside, and placed a stamp on it. It would go in the mail tomorrow. Action followed by action. Finally, I went to this dining room. I cleared the table. I washed every dish by hand, the hot water a soothing ritual. With each plate cleaned and dried, I felt a piece of my soul settle. The house was quiet, truly quiet for the first time in years. It was a sad quiet, a lonely quiet, but beneath that, I could feel the first faint whisper of peace. The fallout was immediate and brutal. My phone rang at 7 the next morning. David. I let it go to voicemail. His message was a torrent of anger and hurt. How could you do this on Christmas? We're your family. You've chosen sides, Mom. You've destroyed our family. Chloe texted a long, winding message full of guilt-tripping and accusations of betrayal. I thought you loved me like a daughter. I see now I was wrong. You've always taken his side. I read them, I listened to them, and I did not engage. I waited a few hours, then sent a single unified text to both of them. I have said everything I need to say in my letter. I love you. When you are ready to speak with respect, I am here. Then I turned my phone off. Helen came over with a basket of still warm scones and a pot of tea. She didn't ask questions. She just sat with me at the kitchen table, the winter sun streaming in, and held my hand. You did the hard thing, Lela, she said softly. The only thing. The real test came a week later. With David and Chloe's reluctant, terse permission, I picked up Maya and Noah from their school. We went to the ice cream parlor, a place of pure, simple joy. Noah, eating a scoop of chocolate, leaned against my arm. He looked up at me, his mouth smudged, and whispered, Your house is quiet, Grandma. It was not a complaint. It was an observation of profound relief. My heart shattered and reformed in that instant. That whisper was my confirmation. 3 weeks after Christmas, an email arrived from David. It was only 2 lines. Mom, we have an appointment with one of the names you gave us. It will take time. Thank you. No apology, not yet, but it was a beginning. It was a crack in the fortress. I began to build a life around this new, painful piece. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. I had quiet, scheduled visits with my grandkids at the park where we fed ducks and drew pictures. I learned to appreciate the silence in my own home. To fill it with music, I chose books. I wanted to read The Simple Pleasure of a Meal for one. The old traditions were not gone, but they were suspended like the star on my mantle, waiting for a time when they could mean joy again, not dread. A year has passed now. There was no miracle cure. David and Chloe are still in therapy. From what I gather, it is hard, grueling work. They have good weeks and bad weeks. But the screaming in front of the children has stopped. The slammed doors in my home have stopped. This past Thanksgiving, we met at a quiet, neutral restaurant. The dinner was subdued. The conversation was careful, a little stilted. There were moments of awkward silence. But there was also laughter, real laughter, when Noah told a silly joke. Maya showed me a drawing she made in therapy, a picture of a house with a bright yellow sun over it. It was progress, measured in inches, not miles. And that is okay. I have learned a lesson that took me nearly 7 decades to understand, that real love sometimes wears the face of a firm boundary. That loving someone does not mean giving them permission to hurt you or to hurt the innocent. That sometimes the most loving word you can say is no. That patience can curdle into enabling, and that peace is worth protecting even if the cost is high. My home is my sanctuary again. The kitchen smells of whatever I want to bake just for me or for Helen. The quiet is no longer lonely, it is spacious. It holds my memories of Frank and my hopes for my grandchildren without the constant threat of storm clouds. This Christmas, I will have a small dinner. Helen will be here. Perhaps the children will come for cocoa and carols on Christmas Eve if it is a good day. I do not know what the future holds for my son and his wife, but I know what it holds for me, a conscious, chosen peace. And I know that the warmest light this holiday season won't just come from the tree. It will come from the courage it took to finally stop a fire that had been burning for far too long. So I will leave you with this. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love to protect your own peace? Or the peace of someone smaller and more vulnerable? How did you find the courage? Share your story in the comments below. If this tale of finding strength resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know these stories matter. Subscribe to the channel for more journeys like this one. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, please share it. Thank you for listening, for being part of this quiet corner of the world. However you celebrate, I wish you a season of genuine peace and the quiet strength to protect it.